So I was tasked with answering the question, how has media changed over the last 100 years? To do this, I went and interviewed my neighbor Patty, who was born in 1954. While not 100 years ago, she still had plenty of insight on what media consumption was like back in those times. So we had a nice long chat, and I learned a lot of stuff, definitely. And then we both got to reflect on how it's changed throughout the years, and how different things are now, and just our relations with one another now with phones and social media and everything else. Okay, so in my interview with my neighbor Patty, we got straight into the music, kind of what that looked like. And for her, a lot of it was more records, at least when she was a kid. She does remember like the 45s that were there before the records. They were just the two-sided with the songs. But the vinyls were a lot more popular once they came out because they had full albums on them. And she said she would buy those for about $5 if she could remember right, just from kind of the general store there in town. Yeah, and then came the 8 tracks after that, which were kind of big clunky bricks, and then the cassettes and the CDs. Okay, next we got into television and what that looked like. She remembered her family started out with a black and white television, and had 3 channels, something totally different than today. But eventually they did end up getting a color TV, she said, about the time she was in grade school, and she said that was pretty life-changing, I guess. But she said her family spent a lot of time around the TV, for most time during dinner time. They would have TV trays and they would spend their dinner out watching TV. The thing I found the most interesting was kind of at, I guess, the end of the night, instead of it being 24-hour TV, shows would just end and the TV would just go fuzzy. And then we got into movies and what that looked like. She would go down to the local movie theater, he said, quite often on the weekends. And tickets were only 35 cents to get in. She said she does remember her dad would always give her a dime before she left because that's all it cost for the payphones. So that way she could always call home if she needed to. I just thought that was interesting, something you don't really think about anymore. And then she definitely remembers The Wizard of Oz kind of being a big movie at the time, especially when it came out in color, or just the transition from black and white to color. That was a very vivid memory for her. But yes, spent a lot of time at the movie theater because not a lot of movies were on TV like they are now. In review, I definitely learned a lot of things about media and how it's transformed throughout the years. I feel like now it's a lot less personal. Everything's at the touch of our fingertips, whereas before, you'd actually have to physically go out to consume it, go buy records, put your records on and play them, go to the movies. I guess TV has remained the same. But it seems a lot more people sat down together as a family to watch. And then in my interview with Patty, she didn't use the radio a whole lot, but even the radio was geared more towards news and information rather than a whole lot of music, at least in her area. But overall, it was a good interview. I definitely learned a lot, and it's crazy to see how everything has changed.